Hello world, it's Bird of Prey 5, Qapla. Today we're going to take a look at the latest short track, Ask Not. Ask Not was released today, Thursday, November 14th, 2019. It is the third short track in this current short track season. The first one being Q&A, where we had the desecration of Spock, and the second being The Trouble with Edward, where somehow they made it even worse. I'm happy to report this third short track, Ask Not, is the best of the three so far. One reason is because it's short. In fact, it's only 7 minutes and 40 seconds, not counting credits and coming soon. 7 minutes and 40 seconds. If you had CBS All Access and you paid $5.99 to whatever it is, $9.99, $10.99, whatever it is, for the no commercials version, just to get a short track once a month, you paid over $1 a minute for this latest short track. So I also have to say that unlike all the previous short tracks, it doesn't destroy canon, and it's not, it doesn't make me want to vomit into the nearest receptacle. It's just boring and predictable. So let's just start. Now, obviously, there's going to be some subspace interference. As I'm going to watch it, you will not be able to hear it, but I will pause it as things happen and tell you what's going on, and hopefully you don't need to watch it for yourself. But if you do, you can. It is available on CBS All Access now. If you don't live in the United States, you're shit out of luck. Okay, only on CBS All Access. Yes, we know. Okay. There are alarms blaring. Okay, so the computer just said yellow alert. Even though you can hear there's an attack going on, they would be at red alert, but fine. Yellow alert. Okay, Ops is calling Inventory 2. Starbase 28 is under attack. So there's a woman. She's saying this is Inventory 2 to Ops, and she wants a status update. They don't seem to be answering her. You can see she's panicking. It would appear she is alone in the station, that Inventory 2 is manned by a single person, who we will later find out is indeed a cadet. So a single cadet mans this station. She wanted a status report, and instead the computers behind her blew up. As you can tell, it has definite Star Trek technology, where they route all giant power conduits right next to where people are working, so they usually blow up in their faces. She got lucky. Lucky her back was to it. But yeah, that was a pretty big explosion. And now she's hearing that whine in her head as a big explosion just happened next to her. We get Ask Not. This is such a short track, they don't even do the full opening credits, thankfully. And we're right back to the so-called action, which I'm using in air quotes. And of course, we have an upside-down shot of her on the floor. She's coughing. She took some serious head injury. She might have a concussion. So she's hearing status reports. Fire is uncontained. Things are bad. Alarms are going off. This is only a yellow alert situation, but apparently they are under attack. So apparently they are on a starbase. And okay, now it finally looks like somebody hit the red alert because the lights are flashing red, although the computer never actually says red alert. Who cares, right? They're just colors, right? What does it matter? It'd be purple alert. Oh, she's still hurting. She took some serious injury. Okay, so Somebody just said Ensign. Honestly, I didn't hear her name. Let me go back a little. So 2 guys come in with a 3rd guy in a mask. And they yell, Ensign, I'm going to say Ignito, although I know that's not her name. They just yell, Ensign Ignito, on your feet. Let's see. Oh, she's in pain. She's crying a bit. Not crying, but she's making sad noises. Ensign Sidhu, on your feet. The starbase is under attack. Look at this. This is like the man in the iron mask. There's damage on deck 4. They can't get to the brig. Until they can, this prisoner is your responsibility. So 2 trained armed security guards are leaving a masked prisoner with a Starfleet cadet alone. It takes 2 people to transport this person, that they are so difficult, apparently, or so dangerous to transport, but it's okay for 1 Starfleet cadet to deal with. And what has happened to our subspace interference? There we go. There we go. My apologies. Okay. So yes, she gets up as soon as he says get up, get on your feet. So this one woman, strong woman, obviously, is going to take possession of a masked officer, or whoever, a masked prisoner. Does she ask yet, why is there a mask? Is it Starfleet protocol to mask prisoners? I don't know. Maybe it is. So he says, are you clear that this prisoner has to stay with you? She says, yes, she's clear. She asks, what happened? And the guy replies, mutiny. And they tell her that he does not get out of this room. Understood? She says, understood, sir. Why the mask? And he said, okay, there's no, as the mask is on, because they don't want the crew to see that this guy turned. Dun, 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 dun. He's about to release the mask. And oh, look at that. The mask, by some form of magic, enters this mask containment system that he holds in his hand. And who is in the mask? Who could it be? And now they're asking if they can trust her with this intelligence. Like she might say, no, I'm gonna tell my sister. Well, what's she supposed to answer? Can we trust you with this intelligence? This isn't intelligence, it's a prisoner. Miss Sidhu, or Sidhu, again, I'm not getting her name. And now they're tossing her a hand phaser, because obviously, why would cadets carry phasers on regular duty? Only security personnel must carry phasers. I mean, why is there no phaser bank in here for emergencies? I mean, on the Enterprise, in the Star Trek movies, there were phaser banks to get phaser lockers in the kitchen. In case the chefs needed to get out phasers to shoot at, I guess, angry crew members, angry that they burnt their Thanksgiving dinner or something. But there were phasers in the kitchen. Now she doesn't even have any phasers available, even though they're going to use this as a makeshift brig. They're again asking her if she's clear that this is what she has to do. And she's saying, absolutely. And now the 2 guys leave, and we see it is Captain Pike. Captain Pike in the mask. And she says, Captain Pike. And this is where I screamed out when I first saw this. It's a simulation. Spoiler. It's a simulation. None of this matters. Though apparently they do use live explosives. I know, oh, we saw in Star Trek 2 that they were using live explosives in the Kobayashi Maru test. I think it's a little different. Those people knew. Those people knew the screens were going to explode. They didn't have their faces next to them. They knew what was going to happen. This poor woman, we're going to find out, had no idea any of this was going to happen. She could have had her face right up against one of those decks that exploded. Okay, she could be blind. She could be disfigured. She could be dead if she was standing a foot to the left. Whatever. Let's keep going. So, Pike is giving her orders, telling her to open communications, and she's reminding him he's a prisoner. He doesn't have any of these rights. He can't be telling her anything. He's a prisoner. Says your orders don't carry any weight anymore. And the station is rocking around them. They're clearly under attack, obviously, except we know it's simulated attack. But still. He says, you've gathered. We're in the middle of a situation. And she says, take a seat, Captain, and I'll ask you to remain silent. Listen to her words. Take a seat, Captain, and I'll ask you to remain silent. At least she's polite. Unlike the woman on the last short trek captain, who was not polite to Edward, but the past is the past. So Pike is looking at her, sizing her up. Can he take her? Can he push her down? No, he's not thinking any of that. He's saying there are lives at stake, and she's saying that's not silence. No, it is not. A few hours ago, the Enterprise picked up a distress call from the USS Bowman. And here she says, the Bowman, is she? And then Pike cuts her off and says, she's in danger. And as soon as she said Bowman, I was then 100% sure it was a simulation. That they knew that she had some type of connection to the Bowman. So Pike is saying he needs her to let her out of there. And she says, and risk court-martial? Okay, so Pike is trying to explain what happened. He said they received an encrypted hail. They approached the ship. It looked dead in the water. The Admiral sent another encrypted hail and told them not to attempt to rescue. It was too dangerous. The Tholians... I'm getting ahead of us here, but I remember what's coming up. The Tholians got the ship. It was too dangerous for them to try to rescue, and the Admirals told the Enterprise to leave. Pike, not being one to leave people to die, ignored the Admiral's orders and rescued them anyway. However, once they actually got the Admiral on board, who they took first, the Admiral then ordered the Enterprise to stand down and leave everybody else to die. And that is when Captain Pike mutinied, so to say, ignored the Admiral's wishes, and kept rescuing people. Although, then the Admiral, I guess, got the better of the situation. More people sided with the Admiral. So Captain Pike was arrested, and the Enterprise was taken away from the Bozeman. But there are still a lot of people left on the Bozeman, and that is why Captain Pike needs her to let him go, so he can take the Enterprise and go rescue the people on the Bozeman, which just happens to be her husband, among others. So we'll let it play for a bit. That brings you up to where we are. She says, yes, it was a trap. The Tholians wanted the Enterprise. Pike says he couldn't abandon the crew. The Admiral attempted to relieve him of duty. He resisted. Didn't go well. More explosions. said the Tholians followed you here, didn't they? Yes, very, very, very astute. It's not the Enterprise attacking, it's the Tholians. And then now Pike knows, he says, you know people on the Bowman. Family. I remember your file. You wanted a position in engineering. Now it all makes sense. He's testing her. He knew her file. What were the chances that Captain Pike knew Random Cadet number 17's file? He read her file, and she was rejected. She wanted a position in engineering. Her husband and her, both applied for the Enterprise. But he got the Bowman, and she wound up on Starbase 28, apparently doing inventory duty or whatever. Why is a cadet assigned to a Starbase? Shouldn't they be in the academy? So now Pike not only remembers she also remembers that those two were the sole survivors of a Tholian attack on another ship a couple of years ago. So Pike is saying, let me go and I'll make sure your husband survives a second time. So this is clearly a custom-made simulation, perfectly made for her. She already survived the Tholians once. She hates the Tholians, presumably. Her husband, his life is on the line. I'm honestly surprised that they gave her a husband and not a wife. They might as well have just gone for it at this point. Why did they have to lose? But okay. So Pike is saying, if you let me go, maybe we can pull off a miracle and get him out of there. The Tholians, they just want the Enterprise. He could lead them away and then blow the whole thing to hell. It's what they deserve. And there's still explosions. He's asking a cadet what she thinks. She's debating. She said, nope, we follow protocol. She's a good Starfleet officer. The Starbase and the Enterprise remain a united front. And now he's quoting some regulation that says, when in combat, command falls to the vessel with tactical superiority, which is the Enterprise, not the Starbase. So the Enterprise has more firepower than the Starbase. This must be one of those crappy Starbases. And she's saying, but the Admiral relieved you of duty. And he said, but you can reactivate him because of a reversal clause. That during times of combat, a relieved officer can be reinstated. An officer in good standing can reinstate a discharged officer in times of combat. Well, wait, is she a cadet or is she an officer in good standing? Because they called her cadet. Oh, she says that's a loophole. That's just a loophole. That's not a real regulation. That's a loophole. That's not her style. Quote unquote style. So saying, in a directive now, she's saying, before engaging in battle, any attempts to get a non-military solution must be made. Listen, they are destroying the station. Okay, there are explosions going off left and right. People are presumably dying. This is not when you try for a non-military solution. They already attacked. They already attacked the Bozeman, according to what she knows. They already attacked the Enterprise, and now they're attacking the Starbase. There's no more time to... That's like saying, you know, the tanks are rolling through the streets of your country, and you're from a hostile invader, And you're going to go up and say, oh, we should get a non-military solution. No, you idiot! Pick up a gun and shoot somebody! This is the time to do it. Listen, I'm all for a non-military solution before the enemy is at your door, you know, trying to knock through your windows and lobbing bombs at your home. Once they're there attacking you, you shoot to kill. That's what you have to do. This is not the time for a non-military solution. And there's just more explosions, just to reiterate the point that the time for peace talks have passed. And Pike says you want to negotiate with the bastards using torpedoes on us. And she's saying tactical force is always the last resort. Yes, and this is the last resort. This is what the last resort looks like. When the bombs are going off all around you and things are exploding in your face, you just had a freaking concussion. You might have died. Okay, you're lucky to be alive. What worse? How much worse does it get? If you're not going to use force now, Jesus Christ, when are you going to use force? It's going to be too late when they're standing over you with a gun. Vengeance should never be a factor. Fine, don't do it for vengeance. Do it to save your goddamn life. And Pike is saying he's all for arguing principles. But the crew is in mortal danger. Not only the crew, you guys are in mortal danger. They're running out of time, says Pike. And he says, what about your husband? And she says, my husband knew what he signed up for. And so did I. Your husband signed up to die, and so did you? Your husband signed up to not ever get rescued because you don't ever want to use your military force? Why do starships have torpedoes and phasers if you're not going to use them when you're under attack by torpedoes and phasers? He says, Cadet. Remember, Cadet, I am giving you a direct order to release me. And she says, and I'm telling you no. Now sit down, sir, please. And he's quoting another regulation, saying he's overriding the regulations. He's overriding the orders of her senior officer. Let me go. She says, and she puts the phaser in front of him where he could have just taken the phaser had he chosen. She uses the phaser to push his arms down and says that order only applies to active captains. Now sit down, sir. And he says, I won't forget this, Cadet. He totally changes his personality. When this is all done, you will never see the inside of a starship again. It's almost like they wrote this just so that they would have something with drama to show in the coming soon segments for short tracks 6 months ago, so people might actually tune in. And she looks very torn, and he goes to the door, and she aims the phaser at him, turns it on. You can hear the familiar hiss of a phaser charging, and she yells, "Step away from the door, sir." And he says, "What are you going to do? Aim a phaser at me? Put it down." She again says, "Step away from the door, sir." This is like Demolition Man, when the police, they don't know what to do. They say, "Please stop doing what you're doing." Say it in a firmer voice. "Please stop what you're doing." And the criminals don't care. Oh, now she says, "Please stop what you're doing now." And Pike is staring her down. And Pike now stops it. He changes his whole mood. He says, okay, she's very good. He does a little trick and gets the handcuffs off. And we hear over the computer, "Copy that, sir." He says, you can put that down. It's all right. How can you put it down? He hasn't, nobody's told you that this isn't real yet. He says, so now Pike goes to the completely working computer screen that was just being blown to shit a minute ago and is telling her, you did great. And of course now it says simulation complete on the computer screen. And she's like, this was a test? Pike has said, your husband's fine. None of this was real. Sorry I had to put you through all this. And she's so happy. She looks down. She's smiling. He's like, we even arranged to so you could see him briefly. He's on his way now. And now Pike is asking if he could take the weapon from her. She gives it to him. He says, I know a challenge like this may seem extreme or cruel, inhumane, but war is both of those things. And he needed to know that she would honor her commitment to Starfleet. Even when those you hold dear are on the line. Even when old wounds are triggered. And loopholes appear. She's asking, but why? For somebody so smart, she hasn't figured out why. Wow, what a shame you were written so poorly. She says, you're pretty busy, sir. Why me? Why would you do this to me? And he says, why don't you get yourself cleaned up, Cadet, and meet me in the transporter room? And she's now laughing, smiling, and they're walking to the transporter room. And they've just beamed over to the Enterprise where the computer, or an officer in a female voice, says, Captain Pike has returned aboard. So looking around the transporter room, the cadet is saying, she is beautiful, sir. All she's looking at is the transporter room. So now, for the first time, Pike is telling her she just completed her approval process. So you'll be serving on the Enterprise for the rest of the semester. That's when you tell her? After she's already on board the Enterprise? I mean, maybe you could have told her this before. Maybe, just maybe, she had stuff to bring with her. So she says the rejection was just... And then number one is back. And look, there's Spock, her pet. Her pet Spock. Number one finishes the sentence. It was all just part of the test. And it was her plan. It was number one's plan. And she leans in to shake her hand. And Spock says we've all learned to expect no mercy from number one. And number one and him, they give a little glance back and forth. I still think they got a little thing going on in private. Spock welcomes her to the Enterprise. And number one says it's a pleasure to have her aboard, and she says thank you. You won't regret this. That's always what people say when you're going to regret things. Oh, but she promises. So now Pike brings her to, I assume this is engineering. I guess that's the warp core. I mean, Jesus Christ, this does not look like the Enterprise I ever knew. And he just kind of, what's he going to do, drop her off there? She says, this is even more amazing than she imagined. And we're getting a good view of the Enterprise warp core here. Like, it does not look like the warp core from the ship that we saw in the original series. I can't imagine this was the ship that we saw in the cage, but whatever. So Pike is telling her, in battle, any crew member could be faced with a life or death choice. But if you can hold on to yourself like you did today, you'll be just fine. She says she'll remember that. She'll remember that. If she holds on to herself like she did today, she's going to die. And so are her friends. And he says, welcome to engineering. And he walks away. And she's like, oh, Captain, one last question. Captain, the phaser I had during the test, was it operational? And he looks at her. He smiles and he says he'll see her around the ship. Cadet. And she doesn't get an answer. She's smiling. She's all smiles. She turns around. End of short track. 7 minutes and 44 seconds of short track, minus 4 seconds when they showed Ask Not at the beginning. So 7 minutes and 40 seconds of short track, in my opinion. Was the phaser operational? No, you idiot. They're not going to give you a live phaser in a simulation. God forbid you killed somebody. Or yourself. You're going through all that and give you a live phaser. So now we're seeing December 12th. Coming up on December 12th, by the way, where it's the animated short tracks. It's the Enterprise animated. Oh, we're going to get 2 short tracks. Ephraim and Dot. And The Girl Who Made the Stars. Which is, of course, a reference to the African proverb that we heard about in last season of Star Trek Discovery. About how a little girl in Africa created all the stars. So apparently we're getting those 2 short tracks on December 12th. Okay. So, listen. This wasn't terrible. It was stupid and boring. And let me tell you, stupid and boring is a vast improvement to the previous 2 short tracks, which were insulting and degrading. I don't know why anybody would pay for this, but if you did, it's not as bad as the previous 2. I can say that honestly. It's not good, but it's not as bad as the previous 2. But there seems to be a little problem with the writing. They're giving her both the powers of a Starfleet officer, but she's also a cadet. It's made painfully clear she's a cadet. A cadet is not an officer yet, unless I'm totally wrong. A cadet does not have the powers of an officer. So, in fact, she was going to do Pike at one point says she's going to do her next semester on the Enterprise. I forgot to tell you that line. She's going to do her next semester on the Enterprise. So clearly she's still of academy age, or doing, a semester abroad in the academy. She's going to do a semester on the Enterprise. So she's still in school for all practical purposes. She would not have any of the abilities that Pike told her that an officer would have to override any command. That said, I think she made the wrong decision. I think Pike actually gave a pretty compelling argument, and considering they were under attack, they were under live fire attack, best she could tell. Everything was to her that they were being shot at by Tholians. She should have let Pike go. Now, had there been no explosions going on, had he just been saying that, and she would have to debate whether Pike was telling the truth, sure, then I could say she made the right call. But no, they were under attack. For everything she knew, her life was in imminent danger. The entire station was perhaps one lucky torpedo hit away from being vaporized. She should have let any officer go who could have kept or put up a fight to save the station, to save the crew, to save the ships, to save herself. Anyway, that's what we expect, though. This is the type of writing we expect from CBS All Access. On a scale of Star Trek short tracks, I give this a solid 2 out of 100, making it, I believe, the second best short track in history, behind the one with Harry Mudd from the first season of Short Tracks, which only problem would have been a great short track if only they had changed the name from Harry Mudd to Barry Mudd, his much more successful brother, instead of Harry Mudd, who was just a con man, not a master criminal. Oh, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share. Sharing is the most important thing these days. YouTube is going to hell with us small YouTubers. They are not making it easy. Every update they do makes life harder on us. The best thing you could do is share this with your friends, your family, your churches, your employers. If you have employees under you, order them. Order them to watch. I don't care. I have no shame. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the review, and Qapla. Thank you all for watching my video. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell icon. Without it, you won't get notifications of new videos. Check out BirdoPrey5.com, the new home of everything Birdo Prey 5 on the web. You can also check out my forum at juot.net. I'm also on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Gab. If you'd like to make a donation, check out paypal.me/BirdoPrey5 or on BirdoPrey5.com. Take care.